This is Marco Forlan reporting from the multi-million-dollar Market Street Sports Complex. It's huge. It has so many different areas for different sports, tracks for running and cycling. It even has its own indoor snow slope. It's been up and running for a year now, so I've come down to see just how much use it's getting. So, Lizzie, you haven't been doing this long, have you?
No, just over 6 months.
And before that?
Well, nothing. I was one of those people who was pretty hopeless at sports in school. In baseball, I could never catch the ball very well, and I couldn't throw it far enough. And I've never been a fast runner.
So you were always last to be picked for a team?
Yeah, that was me. Everyone else was so much more talented, and they looked down on me. But I wanted to do some kind of exercise, and to be honest, I almost don't consider this a sport. It's just something I used to do to get to school. I train 4 days a week now, and do a mix of track and open road. It's my favorite part of the day.
And in the future?
Next month, I'm going to compete in a race. It's just a small local one, but it gives me a goal to aim for. I've been training pretty hard for the past 6 months now. I train here on the track, but also on the open road.
Good luck with your race. Hey, Barry, that was a really impressive jump.
Thanks.
So how long have you been doing this?
Just over a year. I took it up after I recovered from a foot injury. You see, I used to run marathons, but now I find it really uncomfortable to run long distances.
And did you get started here at the complex?
Yeah, that's right. In the beginning, I was just having fun, and then I realized I was really good at it. What I enjoy is it's mostly about skill and the way you use your whole body. It's not just about strength.
And have you ever tried it out in the open?
Yeah, last winter I went to France and had my first attempt on real snow. I met a lot of amazing people there, including a few professionals. They told me that I have a naturally good style.
Any plans for the future?
I'm going to compete in some championships this winter, and I've just bought myself this new board. I just wish we had real mountains here.
That's a great-looking board. Have fun. That looks like a lot of fun, Patricia.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's great exercise.
So you're new to the sport?
Yeah, I started about 9 months ago.
How did you get into it?
I took it up because I wanted something for myself. You see, I've spent the past 6 or 7 years taking my 2 children to different sporting events. They're older now and can get to sports practice on their own. So I had to figure out what I'd like to do.
How did you decide?
Well, I was always athletic, but I wanted to try something new. And I wanted a sport that would get me fit. And this certainly does. Once I'd looked into different options, the choice was easy.
This is a fairly new sport here.
Yeah.
So how is it different from doing it outside in nature?
Well, there are certain paths you can take depending on your skill level, and they can change the path to keep it interesting and challenging.
That sounds interesting. And how often do you practice?
Once a week, and then sometimes on the weekend I go with friends to a nice cliff outside somewhere. I enjoy the social side of things, and it's fun to try my new skills in nature. I just hope my kids will take it up someday, too. Then we can do it together.
Well, I hope you can enjoy it as a family someday.
Monica, we often hear stories about lottery winners who were unhappy or who spent their money unwisely.
Yes, that's true. You often read about lottery winners whose lives got worse after winning. For example, the Griffiths family recently. That was a big story. They won $1.8 million on the lottery, and they spent it all on houses and cars and I don't know what else. And they ended up losing all their money, and soon after that, their marriage broke up. It was a very sad story. And you do certainly hear stories like that.
So does suddenly having a lot of money really influence people's behavior? Or are these just isolated or unusual cases that make a good story?
They're just isolated cases. In fact, winning doesn't usually have a negative influence on people. Of course, people like to believe that winning money leads to disaster because that makes them feel better about not winning. But the idea that winning a lot of money causes misery is actually a myth. It's simply not true.
There have been studies done on this, haven't there?
Yes, that's right. According to most studies, suddenly having a lot of money is just as likely to have a positive effect on you as a negative effect. And most people don't, in fact, spend all their money.
Can you give us some examples?
Yes. For example, a recent study looked at how much of their money people spent if they won the lottery, and it found that people spent a lot in the first 5 years, but very few people spent all the money in their lifetime, only about 2 to 3%. So most people do spend a lot, but they save a lot as well. And then there was an interesting study in California, and they measured how happy people are as a result of winning the lottery. And they found that people get very happy when they win, which isn't surprising. But as they adjust to the idea of being rich and go back to normal again after a few months, they end up feeling just the same as before. So over the long term, getting richer doesn't actually affect how happy you are. You just stay the same, but with more money, of course.
So if you're happy anyway, you'll stay happy even if you get rich. Is that the message?
Yes, that's right. Money won't make you happy, but it won't stop you from being happy either. And studies have also shown that it depends on how you spend the money. So people who buy a lot of things like clothes or houses or cars are often not very happy. As soon as you have a car, you want a better car, and so on. So that doesn't make you happy for long. But spending money on experiences usually results in longer-term happiness.
Experiences?
Yes. For example, going on a vacation of a lifetime or doing something you've always wanted to do. That'll make you happy while you're doing it, and it'll make you happy later because you also have good memories of it. So it's a better way to try and be happy.
Okay, so there we have it. When you win that $5 million, forget the cars and the new house and go for a long vacation instead.
Alfonso.
For me, the thing that's changed my life the most is having a baby. Things are just completely different now. We used to go out a lot. We used to travel as well. We'd go somewhere different every year. And we didn't used to care much about money. We both had good jobs and we had a small apartment in town, so we didn't need to worry about money very much. But now, of course, the baby's the most important thing. So I'd say I've become a little more cautious than I used to be. I used to be an adventurous person. I used to take all kinds of risks without thinking much about it. Whereas now I think more about having a family, having a home, having a steady job, things like that. Sounds terribly boring, doesn't it? But it doesn't feel boring.
Tragana.
A very big change in my life was going abroad to study. I grew up in Croatia, in a fairly small town, and I attended a university there. But then I had the chance to go to Berlin for a year to study. And of course, I had a good time there and I made new friends. But I think it also changed the way I look at life. Before I went, I was shy and not very self-confident, and I had a protected life, I suppose. Then in Berlin, I had to look after myself and also adapt to a new culture, of course. And as a result of being there, I think I no longer see everything from a Croatian point of view, but more internationally. So I'm much more open to different ideas than I used to be. I hope so, anyway.
Miranda.
I think the hardest part of drama school was actually getting into it. The audition process took forever. First of all, we had to perform 2 scenes from plays, one modern, one from Shakespeare. Then we got called back to do the scenes again. I was supposed to prepare a song as well, but they forgot to let me know. So I just sang the first song that came into my head, I can't even remember what it was. After that, there was a workshop for a day where they made us work on new scenes from plays and do movement and voice classes. After all of that, I felt really lucky to get selected. There's no doubt the training was very thorough. I mean, we did everything. The usual voice and movement classes, but also specialized things, like learning how to pretend to fight on stage. I really enjoyed those classes. The tutors were all very different. Some were really strict and tough. For example, we had a movement teacher, and in her class, we weren't allowed to talk or use our voices in any way. That was really difficult. But our voice teacher was really relaxed. She was cool. During my second year, I went through a difficult time because I wasn't sure if acting was what I really wanted to do. I mean, drama school is a huge sacrifice. The training sort of swallowed my life. Like, I lived it every single moment of the day. I kind of felt like I wasn't having what you'd call a normal life for a 20-year-old. The school was really flexible about this, and they let me take a couple of weeks off to make up my mind. I decided to keep going, and I'm glad that I did. I graduated last year, and I have an agent, and I just got a small part in a production at the Royal Shakespeare Company. So, I guess you could say I'm on my way.
Fred. I got into a soccer academy when I was 11 years old. I was playing at my local club, and a scout from a professional club saw me and invited me to play in a trial game. I was really excited about this. My parents had their doubts. They were worried about me not having a normal childhood, but they could see this was a pretty unique opportunity, so they let me do it. My dad was really happy about one thing. We were allowed to see all the club games for free, but I don't think any of us really understood just how difficult a commitment it would be. My mom and dad were more or less forced to act as my chauffeurs, and they had to drive me to practice 3 times a week and then to a game every Sunday. I had to do this and keep up with my school homework at the same time. And that meant I often wasn't allowed to go out and play with my friends when I wanted to. Still, in the academy, we had the best coaches, and there's no doubt that my playing got so much better. We also used to watch videos of games all the time and analyze the strategies of the different players. I enjoyed this a whole lot more than I thought I would. In fact, one of the coaches once told me that this is one of the reasons why I stood out from some of the other boys in the academy. It's a really competitive environment, and at the end of every year, there were some boys who were forced to give it all up because they didn't get invited back the following year. I had one friend, Jack. We started at the same time, but when we turned 16 and it became possible for some of us to earn a salary, Jack wasn't selected. And it was like the previous 5 years were all for nothing. And he was like my best friend, and I really missed him. I did get selected, though, and now I have a full professional contract, so things are pretty good. Did I have a normal childhood? No, probably not. I kind of regret that, but then I've been given an opportunity, haven't I? I guess you can't have it both ways.
Okay, so Zach and Jenna, how did our social media do this past week?
All right, let's have a look at some of the most successful posts. People liked the photos with models. Those posts got more likes than others.
Yeah, look at the way the light is hitting the model in this shot.
Nice.
We posted a couple of action shots, and they got the most likes of all. Like this shot of a hiker in the foreground.
And here's a similar shot of the hiker, but from a different angle. We got 200 new followers from this post. We got the same response with this wide-angle shot of a model riding a mountain bike. The image is a little out of focus, so it looks like he's going really fast.
The light was really good for that one, and we used a filter.
And finally, we posted some close-ups of the products. Here's a close-up of the bikes, and here's one with some bright-colored water bottles in the foreground, and an extreme close-up of the tires.
But it turns out the close-up shots of these products got the least likes. So, that's it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jenna and Zach. Good work. Too bad no one likes the product shots there. They had sharp details and clear colors. Okay, for next week, let's upload more action shots to our feed. Get photos of people using the new products, the new hats and shoes, in exciting situations. Okay? Use more filters. We want to increase our numbers of followers and shares.
That went well.
Yeah.
It was fun. So, more action shots for the next set of posts.
Yeah, action shots. So difficult.
Oh, I don't know. They're not that difficult. It's action, so it's exciting.
Yeah, maybe you're right. But the photo shoots take so long. And the model has to do the same thing, the jump, the pose, whatever, over and over to get a good shot.
Don't worry, I've got some great ideas for our new products. The hats and those shoes. I'll do the photo shoot.
You will?
Sure. I'll do the shoot and you can edit the photos. Gotta go now. Bye.
Later.
Hey, Zach, I uploaded the photos. Want to see them?
Ah, great. Thanks, Jenna.
The photo shoot went really well. We took a lot of photos.
There aren't too many, are there?
Well, no. I only put the best ones into a folder, so you can just edit those.
Okay. Good thing I'm more into the photo editing than you are.
You can say that again. I hate it.
By the way, my fiancée Elizabeth and I were planning the details of our wedding last night.
Oh, yeah?
And we thought, if you're interested, we'd love for you to take our wedding photos.
Me? Are you serious?
Yeah, why not?
Well, I don't think I'm really a wedding photographer.
Oh, don't be silly. You'll be great. Will you do it? Please?
Well, yes, if you want me to. But we'll probably have to do a lot of action shots.
Great. Elizabeth and I jumping and climbing mountains in our wedding clothes.
Yeah, and we can do all the close-ups we want. The cake and things.
Yeah, product shots. Okay, I better get these photos edited.
Nick. My name is Nick, and I'm from California in the U.S. I got a job teaching English in a town called Katowice in Poland. When I first went there, I was very lucky because I stayed with a family who didn't speak English, so I was really forced to speak Polish. It was very difficult at first. I couldn't understand a word. But because I learned Polish, I very quickly got to know a lot of people. I think a key to understanding a country is to learn the language. Without that, you only ever meet the people who speak English, and you can't ever get to know the culture. Another thing is that people often go to places that are beautiful to look at, and that's fine if you're a tourist. But to live in a place, I think what it looks like is the least important thing. People are much more important. For example, I come from a very beautiful old beach town in California. It looks great in photographs, but there's not much going on there. Where I was in Katowice, it's just a big industrial town. Nothing special about it. But the people were very friendly and welcoming, so I very quickly felt at home there, and I had a really good time. I was supposed to stay there for 3 months, but I ended up staying for a year.
Jean. My name is Jean, and I'm from France. I work for a large engineering company, and I went to work in Oman in the Gulf for a year. And I had a very good time there. I had a good salary, so I ate out a lot, and on weekends I went diving and swimming and went on trips to the mountains or the desert. It's a very beautiful country. So, as I say, I had a good time there, but I don't feel I ever really got to know the culture. I never got under the surface of it, so as a result, I remained an outsider. People were very friendly, very hospitable, and I spent some time with the local employees who worked with us. We often went out together. But I suppose because the culture is very different, and I was working hard every day, it was easier to spend time with other foreigners. So my friends were mostly Europeans. I know it's not a good excuse, but it's what most foreign visitors do. They end up in a group of expatriates and have their own lifestyle, and that results in them being like a separate community. Maybe I should have tried harder to learn Arabic. I did try to learn some, but I never learned to speak it well enough to have a real conversation with people.
Ava.
My name is Ava, and I'm from Colombia. I got a chance to live in Toronto in Canada for a year to work for my company. I didn't have to go there, but I chose to go because I thought it would be interesting. And it was a great experience. And of course, at the beginning, it was all new and exciting, and there was so much to see, so many places to go out. I'm from a small town in Colombia, so it was a huge difference. The most difficult thing, I think, was getting to know people. I think in a big city, everyone's busy with their own life, you know? Everyone's in a hurry. It was really hard to meet people and make friends. Also, because it's really cold in winter, nothing goes on outside in the street. Everyone does things indoors in their own homes, and that's a really big difference. Sometimes you walk down a street and you think, where is everyone? And it was so cold. That really affects your mood. It makes you just want to stay indoors, and as a result, I felt pretty lonely sometimes. So, yes, it was a good experience. I'm very glad I went there. But I was also glad to come back home again and see all my friends.
Many people get scared when they fly and they're sure the plane's going to crash. But in fact, it's one of the safest ways to travel. The odds of a plane crashing are only about 1 in a million, and obviously they're much less if you use an airline with a good safety record. It's very unlikely that your plane will crash, but even if it does, you'll probably be fine because 95% of people in plane crashes survive. If you sit at the back of the plane or over the wing near the exit, your chances get even better. So if you're worried about getting on that plane, don't be, because you'll almost certainly survive the trip. You're more likely to have an accident in the car going to the airport. Your chances of having a car accident are 1 in 8,000. So the safest way to travel is to take a train to the airport and then fly. More good news is that you have a good chance of living to be 100, especially if you don't worry too much. According to a recent report, in richer countries of the world, women who are 25 now have a 1 in 4 chance of reaching their 100th birthday. Men of 25 only have a 1 in 6 chance, which is not quite as good. But the chances are getting better all the time. So a girl born now has a 1 in 3 chance of living to 100, and a boy has a 1 in 4 chance. Of course, this depends on what country you're in. In some countries, like Japan, the chances are even higher, and modern medicine could make the chances higher still during your lifetime. So that's the good news. You probably won't die in a plane crash, and you, or at least your children, could live to be 100. But the bad news is, you almost certainly won't win the lottery. The chances of winning a big prize in the lottery are only about 1 in 18 million. So that's extremely unlikely.
That's exciting.
It sure is. This time next week, I'll be settling into my accommodations.
So, what is it you'll be doing? From what I understand, you're going down there to keep your eye on some penguins. Is that it?
Well, I suppose that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah, but, what will you be doing on a daily basis?
Well, I'm not entirely sure. But I think I'll be doing similar things every day. It's more or less a question of observing the penguins, counting them, taking photos, checking tags on some of them, that kind of thing.
Okay, so just kind of standing around in the cold?
Yes. Well, that's the downside of the job. That and the attacks.
What, from polar bears?
At the South Pole? No, from penguins.
You mean those sweet little birds can attack you?
Oh, yes, they're full of attitude if you get too close.
And will they be waiting for you when you get there?
Well, of course. They know I'm coming.
Very funny. So there they are, Mr. and Mrs. Penguin about to play happy family and...
Yeah, so by the time I arrive, the penguins will already have found mates, and then by the middle of November, each penguin couple will have laid 2 eggs.
You just watch them sit on their eggs? That must be really interesting.
I'm sure they'll do something to keep me entertained.
And then?
Well, by the end of December, most of the chicks will have arrived, and then after about 3 weeks, we put metal tags on them.
Unless you get attacked by those nasty, aggressive parents.
We have our methods of defense.
Sounds scary. Okay, this is all very interesting, but I mean, why? Why is it useful to know what these penguins do? It sounds like they kind of do the same old thing year after year.
Nothing wrong with predictable. We scientists like that. But sometimes there can be changes, like maybe there are fewer chicks, or maybe the parents aren't able to feed the chicks and not as many survive. This can tell us a lot about what's happening in the Antarctic ecosystem.
Like what exactly?
I'm a scientist. I never jump to easy conclusions.
That's no fun.
But in a general sense, if there are changes in the number of penguins or changes in their behavior, this can tell us that there has been a change in the climate of some kind. It's part of the evidence, the bigger picture, if you like. The work I'll be doing is just a small part in a big project that's been going on for some time. But because Antarctica is such an unspoiled environment, the changes that take place there can tell us a lot about what's happening on the rest of the planet.
And you get to hang out with those cute little penguins.
Yeah, well, it's just one big penguin party.
Sounds pretty cool to me.
That was a great TV show.
I really enjoyed it. How about you, Daniel? You've been quiet. Is something wrong?
Yeah, my rent is going up next month. I don't make enough to afford this place anymore. I need to do something to make more money. Or move.
Could you get another job in the evenings or weekends? Servers make fairly good money.
It's an idea, but I'm not sure I'd have the time.
And it'd be a lot of work.
I'd need to work at a good restaurant and try not to drop the food. On the other hand, the extra money would mean I could stay. I don't know.
Anyway, time to go. Are you ready, Alex?
Yes, coming. Bye, Daniel.
Wait, that friend of yours, tall guy?
Jim?
Jim. Isn't he looking for a roommate and a room to rent?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'll ask him.
Thanks. Bye.
Bad day?
I'm still worried about my rent. I haven't figured out how to make more money.
Well, you have time to figure something out.
I know, but I don't want to lose that apartment or have to look for a new one.
No, of course you don't. I understand. Alex had an idea today.
Yeah?
Well, you mentioned my friend Jim, and I haven't asked him about it yet, but what do you think about getting a roommate? You have that small room that you use as your art studio. You or someone else could stay in it. Share the bathroom.
I have thought about it. I'm not sure, though.
Of course, the trouble is you'd have to find a roommate and live with them.
Yes, but the good thing is I could keep the apartment.
Or maybe you could just rent the room out sometimes. You know, like a vacation rental. You live near downtown, so there's a demand.
I don't know. It's a big risk. The problem is, you never know who's going to rent it.
I think it's an exciting idea. You might meet interesting people from around the world.
Seriously?
Yeah, and another advantage, you won't have a roommate all the time.
I guess it's a possibility.
Hey, Daniel, are you still thinking of turning your apartment into a vacation rental?
Well, I don't know if it's a good idea.
Yeah, I get it.
Hey, is your friend Jim still looking for a room to rent?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, he found one.
Too bad.
Well, how about asking for a raise at your current job?
Ugh, I just got one and it was too small.
Oh, well, how about looking for a better job? One that pays more?
That might be worth a try. The problem is, it takes time to find a job, and I need money now.
Well, you can look for a job and in the meantime do something else to get money. For instance, you've made some great art. Maybe you can sell some of your paintings.
That's not a bad idea.
Sarah could help with that. Her sister owns a cafe.
What? How would that help?
Well, maybe she can display your paintings in the cafe, and then customers might buy them.
Oh, yeah. I've seen art at cafes before. I guess that's a possibility.
Or maybe she needs people to work at the cafe. You can do both, sell art and coffee.
That's more like it. I've got to do something.
I'll talk to her tomorrow.
That would be great. Thanks.
Dia.
Because I was traveling on my own, I decided to reserve a spot on a bus tour. I thought it'd be fun, and, it would be easy to meet people and hang out with them in the evenings. Well, that was true. I made friends easily. But the tour itself, well, I'd never do it like that again. Not ever. The problem is the people organizing these tours try to include too much in the schedule. It's overwhelming. Some days you have to be up, packed, and ready to go by about 7:30 a.m. And all the time they'd say, remember to do this, remember to be back at such and such a time. I mean, I was on vacation. This felt like being in the army. And they never allowed enough time to visit places. I remember visiting the incredible Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao. I was so excited because I studied architecture in college and wanted to stay all day at one of the most famous buildings in the world. Instead, the tour guide said they would leave without me if I didn't get on the bus. Before going to the next place, I decided to leave the tour. A woman I became friends with on the tour decided to join me. We went to Pamplona to run with the bulls. We could hear the bulls right behind us. We continued traveling through Spain and then went to Portugal. It was much better to do things on our own. I didn't like the way the trip started, but by the end, it was a vacation with new friends and great adventures.
Bernie.
I worked in London one winter, and then I got together with 3 other friends, and we bought this old van from a South African couple, and we took off together to travel around Europe. We had a great time, and there were only a couple of times when we disagreed about what we'd do. The only thing is, finding your way around these European cities and getting from one place to another, it's a nightmare, really. I mean, we had guidebooks and maps and things, but often what we read about didn't match reality. And there are so many cars and people. Driving in Paris was really hard work. It's such a big city with really narrow streets. On the second day there, we were driving down a road and I noticed all these people waving their arms at us. We were driving in the wrong direction on a one-way street. We were only there for 3 days, and we didn't really know where to begin. We went to the Louvre to see the Mona Lisa and all that, but the painting's in this room, and there were all these people there with their phones taking a photo without looking at the painting. And actually, I couldn't really see it at all. Sometimes I'd see other tourists on some kind of tour, and it all looked nice and organized for them. So I guess you get to see more that way, and you don't waste a whole lot of time trying to work things out. Next time I go away, I might try going on a tour of some kind.
Anna.
Last year, we wanted to get away for a week, so we decided to go trekking in the forests of Malaysia. We thought it would be cheaper to catch a train to the airport rather than go by taxi. But we were not happy to discover that the trains weren't running on time. We arrived at the check-in desk very late and barely managed to catch our flight. The flight took 17 hours because we stopped over in Dubai for a couple of hours. By the time we got there, we were exhausted and not really in the mood for trekking.
Professor Barnett, your job is to try to preserve endangered languages. Does it really matter if small languages die out and bigger languages take over? Why is it so important?
Well, yes, it does matter. It matters very much. First of all, of course it matters to the people who speak that language. Your language is part of your identity. Imagine if English died out and no one spoke it anymore. How would you feel?
Okay, that's on a personal level. But what about for the wider world? Is it really important?
Well, yes. If we lose a language, we're losing a part of human culture. There's all that knowledge that the language contains. It's like losing a painting or a building. Every language has its own way of seeing the world.
What do you mean by that? Could you give an example?
Well, one example, it's very well known, is a language called Inupiaq. It's spoken in northern Canada. Now, they have over 100 different ways to describe sea ice. It's unique to that language. You couldn't translate that into English. And you can find examples like this in every language. Every language has a different way of looking at the world.
Okay, I can see that, but isn't it a good idea if everyone learns a global language, say English or Spanish or whatever? Then they can talk to other people. That's what language is for, surely.
Yes, of course it's a good idea, but that's not the point. People often think you have to give up your own small language to learn a big language, and in the past that often happened, but in fact you don't have to do that. You can keep your language and learn the big language. In other words, teach children to be bilingual.
So do you think it's really possible to stop languages from dying out?
Yes, I think it is if we want to enough, and it's already being done by people all around the world. One important thing we can do is change attitudes, especially in children. Make them feel proud of their own language, because unless children want to speak their own language, the language dies. And another thing is we can use technology. We can record people speaking the language, and we can create apps and games to help kids practice the language, for example. I think that's really important because it gives a feeling that the language is something modern and fun and something for young people to learn.
So, Lena, if we leave early afternoon on Friday,
I need to check with Jose, though.
do you think it'll be a problem?
Well, it's asking a lot, Maddie.
He won't mind, will he?
No, but it means he'll have to get off work early and everything.
True, but he's your brother.
Yeah, let me see. Hey, Jose?
Yes, Lena.
Do you mind if I ask you a favor?
No. What is it?
I know this is a big request, and I'm sorry to ask you this, but that is, Maddie and I, we're hoping you could help us move into our new apartment on Friday afternoon.
So you want me to move all of your heavy furniture and stuff?
Yes, please. It's too much for us to do alone. Would you be able to help?
Of course. Just tell me what you need me to do.
Are you sure you don't mind using your new truck?
No, that's fine. I'm happy to help.
Thanks, Jose.
Thank you. That's really nice of you. So the other thing is, will you be able to fit our stuff in your truck?
Oh, I think so. We'll just have to make a couple trips.
We really appreciate it.
And if it doesn't fit, I can always ask my friend Matt to help with his truck.
Do you think it'll be a problem?
It's not a problem.
Thanks so much, Jose.
We're so grateful.
Hey, Jose,
Yes, Lena.
do you mind if I ask you a favor?
No. What is it?
I know this is a big request, and I'm sorry to ask you this, but that is, Maddie and I, we're hoping you could help us move into our new apartment on Friday afternoon.
So you want me to move all of your heavy furniture and stuff?
Yes, please. It's too much for us to do alone. Would you be able to help?
Of course. Just tell me what you need me to do.
Hi there, Jose.
Hi, Matt.
So, do you want to go to the game on Friday?
Sorry, I can't. I just told Lena I'd help her and a friend move. They're moving into a new apartment together.
No problem. How about the game on Saturday then?
That works. It's a day game, right?
No, a night game.
Even better.
Do you want a hand on Friday?
Do you mind? I know you're usually busy.
I'm more than happy to help out.
Your truck would really help. I think they have a lot of stuff.
No problem.
Great, thanks. They'll really appreciate it.
And if they don't have a lot of stuff, maybe we can still make it to the game on Friday.
Right. Tickets are on me. So where did you go?
We went camping in the Grand Canyon. It was amazing, a real experience. But before that, we drove through the Mojave Desert. That's a big salt desert. Just salt for miles and miles.
Wow, amazing.
And we saw cowboys, didn't we, Julian? Where was that?
I don't know. Some town near there. It was like a cowboy show. They had a shootout.
You mean like a gunfight? For show?
Yeah, that's right. Then we stopped for something to eat, and we were really lucky because it was getting late and we had nowhere to stay. But the owner of the restaurant was really nice, wasn't he?
He let us camp behind the restaurant.
Yeah, the people were really friendly, weren't they?
Yeah, it wasn't very comfortable though.
Why not?
We couldn't blow up the air mattress. It had a hole in it.
So we slept on the ground. It was really uncomfortable.
Anyway, the next day we saw the Grand Canyon.
Oh, that must be incredible.
It is. It's breathtaking. I've never seen anything like it.
Did you walk through it or what?
No, we just drove around it. Around the south rim. That's where the best views are. And we camped there too.
We were lucky to find a place. It was peak season.
Yeah. So anyway, then we watched the sunset over the Grand Canyon. Pretty amazing. And the next day, we got up at 4:45 and saw the sunrise.
4:45?
Oh, it was worth it. It looks completely different at dawn. What else did we do?
We saw a condor.
Oh, yes. They're really rare, apparently. There are only around 300 birds left in the wild. Really impressive birds.
Sounds great.
And then we went on to Las Vegas.
Wow, Las Vegas? Hope you didn't lose all your money.